So thank you, everyone. The topic of our discussion is building an enterprise data strategy for AI. Throughout this conference yesterday as well as today, we have had a number of speakers talk about various aspects of AI. And we want to talk about the underlying foundation for AI, which is data. And how do we, as we move all our AI experiments from pilots to production, I think data will become increasingly one factor that will underpin the success of many of these projects. So I want to start with Dr. Tapan Sahu and ask him, how do you create a data strategy? And you have had a lot of experience. And what do you think are the building blocks for having a data strategy?
I think, thank you for inviting me here. You know, one of the things which comes to my mind, before you do any strategy, there is a famous saying which says, culture eats strategy for breakfast.
Yes.
So before you start on any strategy, how do you really build a culture? So if you're talking of, for example, enterprise data strategy, what's the enterprise culture for creating data, using data, and then using AI? So the top leadership commitment and awareness, then percolating it down to the people, actual users, becomes extremely critical. The second point is that when you are talking of enterprise AI, I think AI governance and security and privacy by design. These are the important aspects to be taken care of as far as the strategy is concerned. Of course, I mean, further to that, you have to look at infrastructure, you have to look at your platform, you have to look at how do you derive use cases. But starting from the commitment is very critical. But then linking the initiative of AI data strategy to business performance is also second important factor. Because unless you have right KPIs which you want to monitor, decided by the top, and then percolating it down to what is required to be developed. Typically what happens is, the problem which happens is, we have lots of data in the organization and people start with, okay, let's collate all the data and then put AI on that. I mean, that's a very, difficult or wrong way to start. You should be clear that, okay, I want A, B, C, D, E, these are my business objectives. And therefore, these are my KPIs I want to monitor and use AI to give me insights on that. So I think that's the way to start.
Thank you, Dr. Sahu. I think you have touched on two very important points that, the role of top leadership in sort of setting the direction. And the second is, just because we have lots of data, so let's put AI on top of it and see what comes out. Perhaps may not be the best strategy for doing this. I want to ask Ramesh. Ramesh, what is your experience on having a data strategy?
See, the thing is, we are speaking about this for the last 15 years, right? And I'm sure everyone has got certain data strategies, certain approach, data governance, councils, at least in financial services, might be other industry. Actually, even in e-commerce does better than banks, right? So now suddenly, because of AI, no one is going to go and change all those things. It is just not possible, right? Because the amount of money invested in technology, in process, in understanding, it is, see, whether it works perfectly or not is a secondary aspect. Because these are all running businesses, right? So if you're going to create something new, I think we can look at it. My view is, as long as you're not changing your underlying systems in which you're working, I don't see a huge drastic change in data strategy which is going to emerge, right? Because you have to now figure out what AI means and how AI works. Now, if everyone says that, no, let me fix data first, then you're going to not do very well on that, right? And my thinking is, can really AI help in cleaning some of these things? Right? Today, we can very easily make our data far more accurate. Some of the transactions which have happened. You can't do anything about it because that's what it is. So I think we need to be far more pragmatic in saying that, look, I am in a certain stage of data strategy evolution. There are a few new things which are available today, but as long as if you're not changing the underlying core systems, I don't think we need to spread through. There's a different kind of governance will come that you can't have. Even if not AI, by DPDP, we would have to do a lot of things, right? And we are already doing it, right? Most of the regulators globally have, come up with certain kind of things. How do you manage? Cybersecurity is real. So I think it is a moving train. I think what each of us have to find a way to ensure that You get out of the train and don't fall on the track. That's all.
Thank you, Ramesh, for offering a slightly contrarian view to what Dr. Sahu has said. I think it's interesting. I think you've expressed some of the practical realities of doing this, that you may have something already in place. It's very difficult to go ahead and change it. There is legacy data which is there, may not be possible to improve it or to put it into the format that you want. What you're looking for is help from AI to actually leverage it better. I think these are perhaps, if I've summarized you correctly. Yeah, thank you. Ashish, I would like, yeah, welcome Shiju. So I'd like to ask you, what is your perspective about data strategy? You are in the retail business, so to speak, and the consumer goods business. So
I think, what you just mentioned and you summarized is very true, right? You can't build in today's world a data strategy separate from AI from what you already have and exist. I think you have to build on that. The other thing is that the pace of change has been so fast, right? That I don't know how much in the future you can think about in building an AI data strategy. We just heard him speak about the notebook LLM and things like that, and those tools evolving so fast. How do you get organization data fast to it and get ROI from it is probably what is defining us more in terms of leveraging the data rather than, obviously you need to have governance and you need to have some control over there, but how fast can you leverage existing data in organizations to leverage some of the AI tools coming up? I think that will define, strategy more, and probably look at it in a shorter term so that you have agility to get results faster rather than look at a very long term data strategy. You already have strategies for analytics, for dashboarding, for transaction systems to build on that, so you are able to leverage the tools much faster.
Yeah, thank you, Ashish. So, I'd like to ask Sachin to offer some perspective on this, on what you have seen people do. And perhaps with your experience in manufacturing, is that slightly different from, say, financial sector and perhaps consumer goods? So do you see any difference in terms of data strategy?
Yes, absolutely. I think what I will talk about is what happens what are the symptoms that should compel you to think that you need a data strategy. So typically what happens in our organizations is we get a strategic initiative that is blessed by the management, and then we start a project and we go through the project, but we feel often that it's a suboptimal outcome. So what is the reason for a suboptimal outcome? You have a good data, you've got an AI initiative going on, everyone's very excited, but the outcome is suboptimal at the end of it. Why does that happen? So I think it happens because of three things. There are value leakages that happen when you start the project and when you deliver the end result. The first one that comes out, I think technology is now coming into platforms. So I would call it platform. We will often find that you have outdated platforms. These platforms are not necessarily scalable. And that's the first time you realize, like you said, what has happened, that the data quality that you want to use is not there. So you definitely need to have a platform strategy when you're talking about a data strategy. The other is the process. Right? How do you do traditional development or you do an agile development process? In the process, often what happens when we talk about AI, embedding AI on top of data is my use case aligned with the business value? Often technologists get too excited about the technology itself, and as much as we would like to believe that no, we have the end outcome in mind, actually we don't. A lot of times, we are so immersed in the technology, we're not thinking of what was the business outcome that we were desiring.
But everybody's very excited about the technology you just showed.
But you have to have the business case in mind, right? And then the other pitfall that I have seen is there is only one hero use case that is really talked about AI. So we talk about a hero use case, and then we're not looking at all the other things that can happen. And that's where I alluded to the day one value. The third one is, of course, people. So today, I think there is a lack of enough tooling available in our own infrastructures and platforms. There is a lot of tooling available outside. So lack of tooling inside is what will help the people. Second is the lack of lack of AI literacy. So again, we need to make our teams more AI literate. And third, I would say is we need to provide our teams access to an innovation platform. So if we get our platform, if we get our process, if we get our people and provide them these things, I think at the end what you have is a scalable, a successful data strategy.
Thanks, Sachin. And I think one of the related things, to all this is that, my colleague presented yesterday the state of the enterprise technology survey. Though he showed only a small parts of it, I think one of the significant things we found was that most people said many kinds of data are growing very fast. So today you have a lot of data, many kinds of data, and it is growing at all different rates. But we are continuing to collect data. So I want to ask Mr. Shikhande, being in the consumer space, how do you see, this growth of data and, what kind of infrastructure you need to have to, keep all this data, process all this data, and then make it available in ways that are consumable, both internally as well as for AI?
So maybe I'd like to step back and, we'll link it to the earlier question.
Yeah.
I think the data strategy, in a way, needs to follow from your digital transformation strategy. In our case, again, I'm going back maybe 5-6 years back, when we first tried to figure out what will we really need data for at a high level. Again, I'm not talking about specific use cases, but where is the value that digital transformation led by data will deliver in a business like ours? And the answers were, it was on, let's say, customer engagement, personalization, that was one bucket. The other was on supply chain. In retail business, supply chain is highly complex. And in most cases, can't be managed manually. I mean, there is practically,
too many variables.
Yeah, data and analytics, AI and all came in. It was being done, thumb in the mouth kind of approaches to do really supply chain and retail. And the third part was product development, right? See, product development, especially in fashion, is a ongoing exercise. Trends change every, week, every month, and with social media, it's even faster. Now, given all this, right, if you're looking at that, these buckets are what you're trying to address from a business performance perspective, that you need to be excellent when it comes to product design, you need to have optimize your inventory movement across your supply chain, and you need to be engaging with customers. I mean, those are three big things that from our business perspective. Then you need to really look at what data you need for that. And then it comes down to whether it's just, is structured data good enough? Fine, you have your systems, you have your ERPs, supply chain, whatever, loyalty platforms, marketing platforms. And then is structured, or do you also need unstructured? Are you going to do social sentiment analysis to engage with customers? Are you going to take your customer service calls and then try to analyze customer sentiment? So it's really that determines how you architect your data and the likely growth. See, by and large, if you're focusing on structured data, most solutions will be fine. It's not going to grow that fast. Whether you decide to do on-prem or you decide on cloud, there can be one approach, fair bit of predictability. But the moment you start getting into unstructured data and getting social media, analytics, calls and so on, then it becomes much more difficult, and you really need to think of what kind of data architecture you will have to be able to first collect and then analyze and deliver the required insights and enable them in real time for your business operation. So that's how I would like to frame it, that you really need to think of where you're going to use it.
Yeah, thank you. So, Shiju, I'd like to ask you, you are in the financial services business as well. So, how do you see data growing? And then, what is your strategy for conserving and preserving and processing it?
Good afternoon, everyone. I think a couple of years before we had been hearing about the data as a oil. I would say data is a soil, because before cultivating any soil, you should know what the outcome will be. So every soil will not give the outcome what you want to be. So similarly, when we look into data, you need to know what actually impact it is going to make. So first of all, strategy should be what the data inputs are. So all the data sources has to be clearly identified. The data quality should be given much more emphasis in terms of that perspective, because today we talk about, because most of them do data. So that's how the organizations are started adopting the data. So data pointer is very important in terms of knowing what sort of data, what sort of impact, and who will be the impacted, internal, external. So those sort of strategy has to be very clearly outlined. then dovetail it with the AI, because now AI is most of the new generation thing, since data is into million petabytes now. So probably you will have to have the AI to materialize it or curate the data. So that's the strategy. So it's every pointer you need to have a strategy. It's not only the data classification perspective, also one of the biggest strategy, because being the data, you also need to look upon terms of how do you secure it, because that's one of the key things. Who has the access? How need basis you give the access to internal people or to the users who are going to access this. I think that's all part of the strategy what we are looking for, but definitely data is the next soil which will be planned for all the organization. That's how the business process works today.
But very interesting that you mentioned this issue about data classification, which has long been a big point of contention within enterprises as to who should do it and when. And so do you see any role for AI in that, and how confident are you that it can do it?
I think AI will play definitely a vital role out over there, but before that you need to put up a strategy and policy in place who will have the access to the data. So today, if you see, everyone will have the access in the organizations. Probably they may not need to be, but how do you make that policy stringent to ensure that it's only the relevant people have the access first? And then what you need to do, the outcome, the AI definitely will help you to do that.
So do you agree with that, Ramesh, that you need to have a policy first before you do the classification, or
See, I think
sort of
it is there.
interdependent?
See, again, this is again a topic, at least in financial services, I think is solved to a large extent, right? Because you always start with policy, because you have to cross the regulatory hurdle, right? Because whether it is right or wrong, regulators have set up certain things, and you need to ensure that you don't. In our case, it's very simple, right? We run 7 companies. Data cannot commingle. So then, how do you do a cross-sell? So we figured out a way to do it, but that is the first part. I think today many of the tools have started doing the classification in a much more nicer way, or is it come as an out-of-the-box kind of solution? And what we have also done in our case, we have ensured that business actually sets the rules for these things, right? The engineering is done by technology, so there is a very clear, of course, risk will kind of manage it. So that, I think, was previously the challenge, right? Because either we were giving to risk or technology to do that, and business to use it, and business always said it doesn't use. So we said, business, you decide that, risk will monitor, technology will implement. That works very well for us.
Oh, wonderful. I think so. I'm glad to hear that that's a solved problem now. But Sachin, do you see a role for AI in that, to meet this sort of trilateral kind of arrangement?
Thanks for coming to me, really. I think, the outcome of a data strategy is what? It is the data platform. So any of all of us, when we make a data strategy, at the end of it, then we will be having either a deliberate data platform, or we will eventually end up having a data platform. And before we start using that data for AI, again, we will have to embed the AI in data platform itself. So to answer your question, I think AI should first be embedded in your data. And what does that mean, right? It means that can I clean up the data using AI, right? So can I explore and analyze the data using AI? So the answer is yes. Fundamentals, can I use code assist? So whether it's SQL or Python in your data platform, you will need to write code. You should have code assist. That's another element of AI. Yeah. That AI will help you write the code, right? Then you have to optimize your workloads. Now, if you have to optimize the workloads, today already data platforms are available where AI is embedded to do that. I alluded earlier to data security. So AI needs to be added into your data security as well. And I talked about the example of Big Sleep, which the agent identified a vulnerability that was yet to be, probably used by some nefarious actors. So at the end, I would like to say that really take a look at 3 capabilities in your data platform, which will be an outcome of your data strategy. One is it should be based on open standards. Because your data, structured data at least resides in tables. So it should work with Iceberg, it should work with Delta, it should work with all sort of tables. So it should be open standards. Second, to take care of unstructured data, it should be multimodal. So your data platform should be multimodal. And most importantly, it has to be cross-cloud. Today, none of us have the luxury of not being in a hybrid or a cross-cloud environment.
Yeah, thanks, Sachin. So, Amit, I would like to ask you, he's talking a lot about a data platform and perhaps an intelligent data platform. So, what is your view about using a data platform? Number one. And second thing is a cloud-based platform, because I know for certain kinds of industries, particularly pharma and some of the regulated industry, they are not that much comfortable in only using a cloud strategy. So, I'd like to hear your views on that.
Thank you, Girdhar. First of all, good afternoon to all of you. Before touching base the technology part, I want to touch base the basics part first. Because, technology is always good. But how that technology is fit for our business requirement is the main question from all of us. Maybe it's Google, maybe it's SAP, maybe it's IBM, whosoever it is. All technologies are good. Even yesterday also I interacted with few partners, and we have some pain areas, especially for schemes and discounts calculation, because we are an agrochemical company. Agrochemical company, we have our own complexities of business. So as per the government regulation, we are controlled. As per the climatic conditions, we are controlled. As per the economical conditions, we are controlled. Right? So now coming back to the basics means AI is fine. All the solutions are fine. But what about how to control or how to structure the unstructured data, which is far most important for us, because we are dealing with more than 50,000 distributors on daily basis, more than 75,000 farmers, and retailers also in the same way.
Is it also multi-language?
It's a multi-language.
Okay.
We have one more separate wing called as Aviral, who is doing advisory services. They are directly connected with farmers on daily basis.
Right.
They are advising them what to do, what not to do during different type of circumstances. So we are more focused on data strategy first, right? So because whatever solutions you will deploy, system works in the same behavior, garbage in, garbage out. So if your data is not correct, right? So for quality of data, because as per Gartner, only 25% to 30% is qualitative data, and rest is unqualitative data, as per Gartner itself. So we are more focused on how build the unstructured data to a structured format in different templates, and then churn the data for qualitative perspective. So we distribute the whole thing in three parameters. One is the data strategy, second is the data governance, and third is the data security because of DPDP requirements. So how to build the data quality? Sources of data is far most important for us. Then who all are the owners of that data? Here we are more focused. Why you want this thing? Everywhere we want with the separate SPOCs that what is the purpose or what is the objective of this data? Because in my past companies, when we are developing the IoT solution, the product head said, boss, I want nanosecond data. What you will do with that data? You tell me first. Right. Then they said, okay, 3 minutes data for building a solution for my pumps and motors. Then we finalized, okay, 15 minutes data is fine for me.
So negotiation.
So means that's why KPIs, this is an evolving phase and it's a big journey. And KPIs are always changing. Once you set the benchmark that you need to know about who are the top best distributors or who are the top 10 products, then again management asks, no, do in this way. Right? So KPIs are always changing. That's why we need to set the basics first, and then we'll talk about the AI. AI is an evolving journey. We also, because Crystal Crop is working in a co-create environment. We already engaged 12 different partners, especially for 4 different areas. One is sales, one is supply chain, then production, and then finance. These are the 4 major categories. We are developing our own solution. Some are the good startups, and some are the big names also. So we are building a journey. We joined, although we joined the hands with them, and we are building our own roadmap for the requirements.
Yeah. Thank
because
you.
We have a global presence, basically. Yeah.
Now, I want to cut you and ask, we have talked about this platform and why the platform needs to be intelligent. So what is your view on it? Is it required? Is it?
Before that, I'll just come back to the same point. I think he talked about the access of data,
Yes.
and then I think that is one of the biggest challenges in any organization. If you look at it, there are different functions: marketing, production. Different people have different access to different sets of data. But when you want to democratize data and use it for actual business benefit purposes, there is always a role of who is the owner of the data, ownership and sharing. That becomes a critical challenge to be, dwelt with when you're talking of transformation. So I was reading an article recently which is moving away from ownership to stewardship. So as an enterprise, who are the data stewards who are going to actually enable this transformation to give right access to right people with security and privacy, other things embedded into it. And that becomes extremely critical. And therefore the platform, intelligent platform to manage all this becomes very, 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 very important fact. I mean, he said about we are in a running trend. I mean, of course, business is going on and all the current data points in your legacy systems or operating systems will keep on happening. But when you are talking of using AI or a data strategy for actually realizing business benefit, there you need to be extremely careful and drive this transformation across the organization.
So I think it's interesting. The common theme that is sort of emerging among all the panelists here is, this issue about governance and security of the data and who has access, and what will they do with all this data. So I think the challenge is not in managing the data, but it's more about how to govern it and how to provide the right security around it. So Sachin, what are you seeing in terms of solutions that are simplifying this, making it compliant for different industries, ensuring, helping people to do this properly and to do this in a futuristic way so that, we don't need to implement a solution today and then, run 1 year later because we have to do something else because it doesn't fit the bill. So because I think one of the things that some of the panelists had alluded to was DPDP, particularly if you're in the financial sector or if you're having PII information, whether you're dealing with farmers' information, whether you're in the mutual fund industry, even in the consumer industry, you are collecting a lot of data. So how are, companies like Google Cloud approaching this? I mean, it's a global issue, but for the India market, what assistance are you providing?
No, so thank you for that. So you asked the question that, what are some of the ways that we should think about, what is available. So I think with all this proliferation of data, different types of data, we need to think of data as a product inside a company. So when you ask what are we doing, so if you look at Google Cloud's data platform, the first thing we will help you do is treat your data as a product. Now it is a product. Who are the consumers of this product? Consumers of this product are technology teams, the business teams, the developers, AI engineers. All of these are users of this product. And if you think of data as a product, then it will start getting all those characteristics. Why are you using it? What can it be used for? What is its shelf life? How fresh it is? The other way to think about it is data as a service, right? Both of them go hand to hand. Depending on your usage, you will use data either as a product or you will use data as a service on how you're applying to it. And I think when it comes to AI, then AI has especially sort of put these two in a mesh. It's a data mesh now. You have to use data as a product also. You have to use data as a service also. So that's what I would.
That is a very interesting way to look at it. That you're now talking about data meshes rather than data as silos. So it's an improvement. And the final question I want to put to panel, I think it was raised by some of the panelists in slightly oblique ways about machine-to-machine communication, which is now coming up. And so what will be the implications for data strategy there? Because we are looking at a completely different way or source of data, and a lot of it is now mediated through machines only, without any human intervention at any point. So do you see any new implications for your data strategy from that? Praveen?
I think it is going to be how do you identify and define, machine, right?
Does it the person now?
Yeah, so it's identity, right? It will come down to identity. So if you have your governance layer in place and controls around who can access what data, right? Those same controls have to get extended to machines as well, right? It really comes down to that. So for machine-to-machine interaction, you have to treat them as persons and create an identity management solution around managing machines as well. That would be my thought.
So a related question, we are talking all about agentic AI. So what happens to agents? Are those also identities?
I mean, an agent has to be an identity clearly associated with a person or independent. So.
Okay, wonderful. Yeah, and Tapan, you want to say something?
No, I think for machine to machine, I think from other transactional data, that also comes as a transactional data, and we are creating two different platforms. One is the enterprise data platform, and the connected space, which is like a IoT space, which will have a different set of data sets, but the data from there will get connected to the data platform. And what Sachin talked about the product philosophy, that's definitely something way forward to understand and actual uses of data.
Product and the service, yeah. Ramesh.
Maybe one point, I think where there is a struggle is, right, if you really look at an aircraft, forget about AI, right? Autopilot it takes a lot of things and the flights are flying for a very long time. You know, if you go to our Birla Opus plant, there are hardly people and everything is on. I think what we are struggling to understand is, you know, software to software is something which we are not able to imagine how it works, right? But when there is something physical involved, we have been using it for so long. It is just that we need to accept it and then move on. And I think we are not. I think, which I will touch upon in my session, but not in too detail. Then will not have anything to speak then. It is really the aspect of practicing and training. That's what we are missing, because the learning has become very easy. You can learn any topic in a day, but you have to practice it, right? And then we are simply refusing to do it and think that someone is going to solve your problem. Is my view.
Thank you, Ashish. Any thoughts you have about?
Yeah, so I think when you start talking about machine to machine, I think the aspect of trust comes in very important, right? So, you know, how do you get that trust in the interactions, and maybe even more so when you get onto agentic scenarios. But I would say, going back to that point of security and governance and some of the data protection over there, I think the element of multimodal, and we are very good at protecting, our own structured data, but how do you really look at unstructured, different forms of data, especially in our industry, the consumption points and the capture points are varied. So how do you really bother and, worry about that, but you still want to use it for various, AI scenarios. So getting control and managing that is a, key aspect, of really machine to machine as well as,
agent
data strategy, agent to agent. Yeah, I mean, whose agent it is and whether you have HR policies on agents, I think will also come up soon, but that's for another topic, I guess.
Thank you. So Shiju, the final word.
I think we are talking about the complete automations at this point of time from end to end for building a data lineage. But my emphasis again will be for the data quality, because end of the day, since it's completely automated, there is no maker checker sort of thing. So someone has to ensure that the data which gets input that is correct. Because end of the when the results comes out, someone is consuming. So it should not happen that the wrong data is coming out as an output. So emphasis has to be given in terms of process and the strategy from the data insourcing perspective.
Thank you. I think we have run out of time and I've got the signal. So I want to thank each one of you for being on this panel. It was very interesting. We had some great viewpoints, about what should be data strategy, what's the right way to do it, whether we need an intelligent data platform or not, and what do we do about emerging technologies like software to software communication, agents, machine to machine communications. I really look forward to carrying on this kind of conversation in the future as well, because I think these are some of the things which will impact how we do our AI strategy. So thank you very much to all the panelists who were here this afternoon. Great thoughts, and we look forward to having you all back again on this platform, not after 1 year, but much quicker. Thank you so much.